Public Prosecutions. The police continued to be in occupation of these premises illegally. That was an act of trespass because under our law there is no legal justification for the police to enter anybody's private residence or property without the sanction of the law or without appropriate orders from the court. And yesterday we got an order which required of the police to vacate these premises, which they didn't, despite the fact that the orders were served, and I posted the orders at the gate of these premises. The police continue to be in illegal occupation of these premises up until early this morning. The Prime Minister, Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, was here to visit and find out for himself what was happening to his friend. And when he came in here, I followed a little later, and I was not allowed to enter these premises, although I was on record as a lawyer for Mr. and Mrs. Wanjigi. The Prime Minister had an exchange with the police and again read through these orders to the police officers, and they would not obey these court orders. I know yesterday, because I had a policeman talking to the Inspector General, where the Inspector General actually acknowledged that he had received these orders, but he directed the officer who was in charge of these operations not to obey the orders until contrary orders had been issued by the police. So we have now a dysfunctional state, and it starts right from the way the elections were held, how the orders of the Supreme Court were disobeyed. You remember during the election petitions, there were interlocutory orders that were given to the police, to the commission. Those orders were not obeyed. You have heard how judges are being called names, and one then would not wonder why police officers would choose to disobey valid court orders. So as we speak now, we have taken instructions together with my colleague here, Mr. Otienda Molo, and other lawyers who are here, to proceed with speed to file proceedings against the Inspector General and the Director of Public Prosecutions for contempt of court. And it's not just contempt of court. A lot of damage has been done in this building. A lot of it actually, courtesy the media, the public was able to see that the policemen can come like a rogue militia, armed with axes, machetes, and other crude instruments and weapons, and to begin to destroy somebody's property without a court order. That happens only in a rogue state, in a banana republic. Now, Mr. Wanjigi and Mrs. Wanjigi are here. Mrs. Wanjigi's wife, Irene, I want to thank you, because throughout this, she was very calm. Honorable Maina Wanjigi was here, and I think, Jimmy, you should be very proud of your father, because despite the show of force when I was here, he was calm. But I think he had a similar experience like this at one time. So he knew exactly how to react to this kind of behavior from the state. Mr. Wanjigi, you see, is here, is calm. Yesterday, I told the court that whenever they would require me to take Mr. Wanjigi before the court, so long as the court would give guarantees that he would not be molested, including yesterday. I even offered that we will be able to make him available even today. But the court said there's no hurry. having presented the case, we can appear in court tomorrow. And there was no requirement for him to appear in court tomorrow. And the judge was satisfied on the basis of the material that we offered before the court that Mr. Wanjigi needs protection. And that protection should come from the state. And the state itself is not complying with those orders of court that require him to be given protection. So I want to end here and give an opportunity to Mr. Wanjigi to say one or two words. But I can assure you and members of the media who are here, we are dealing with a rogue state. A rogue state where even junior police officers, because you know the law of the land, the constitution, now requires that any officer of the state should not be had to be saying that I am receiving orders from above or from a superior authority. We have gone past that legal regime. That what the officers should have done yesterday was to receive this order and then consult their superiors and inform them they have no alternative but to obey the court orders. And the court gave us these orders in many, many copies, in the original, with the seal of the High Court, signed by a registrar of the High Court, and with the name of the judge who issued these orders. Still, the police would not obey these orders of the court. So I want to end there and invite Mr. Wanjigi to say a few words, and thereafter our principals will talk to you and will be able to answer any questions that you may have. Mr. Wanjigi.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you all for coming. I'd like to say on behalf of my wife and I, especially to you, the Fourth Estate, you have covered this siege on our home over the last 72 hours. It is an unjustified siege. A siege that my family need not have gone through. It is actually a siege that is premised on nothing else but persecution. Persecution. I'm an innocent man as I stand here. Everything you have seen from the so-called police is a complete fabrication. Whatever was found here in this home, as they're trying to publicize, those are licensed firearms. Every single one of them. And yet they want to try and say they found something big here. They never bothered to try and ask us or to justify their presence in this home. Any other action you have seen in other parts of the country, we are told in a so-called residence in Malindi, they found guns. This is an amazement to us because we don't know what they're talking about. It is a complete persecution, complete and absolute persecution. Let me say here that if it was not for the will and the strength and the prayers of Kenyans, many of us would not be standing as we are standing here today. Many of us. My wife you're seeing here was assaulted by a police officer. All in the name of her trying to record what they were doing in this house. Recording breakages they were doing. There was an order for search. They say it's a so-called order. None of that order said you can break anything. But they broke into this home. They tried to desecrate the home which my children have grown up in. My wife and I live in. And this is personal, very, very personal, as everybody's home is. They came in here, more than 100 people, as though I'm the worst criminal in this land. GSU officers armed to the teeth, as though we are such bad people. All contrary to the truth. We are innocent Kenyans. And if they can do that to some of us who live in these suburbs, it is frightening what must be happening to the small mwananchi. Mwananchi who is struggling every single day to make a living. The kind of persecution they must face daily. Daily. Here, I can tell you, even with all that, I tend to believe because of where they were, there was a bit of restriction on their side. And then when we had friends and media paying attention, there was further restriction. And most importantly, of course, when Baba came, that now made them run away from so-called breakage of the law because they were in total contravention of a court order. I hate to imagine what the small Mwananchi faces in this country every day. This is a home I would like to tell you we struggle to build, but this is a home I want to also tell you that this current regime of Uhuru Kenyatta, this is a home they know. It's a home they have visited. It is a home they've eaten with. They've eaten with my family here in this home many, many times. They have. In fact, their government was formed in this home. In this home. Okay, these are the facts. These are the facts. Yeah, okay. And I'm going to be very clear here. Right? I also want to say further that after the last general election in 2013, it is this home that Baba here agreed to come to shake hands with Uhuru Kenyatta after the Supreme Court had upheld his declaration. It is this home on Easter Monday that Baba agreed to come. And I remember praying extensively that day because I said, I am such a blessed man in this home and my family to have 10 million plus Kenyans in my home. I felt very blessed. It is here that a peace direction was accepted and a progress forward to Uhuru's own acceptance of leadership in 2013. So this is my father who has been here for the last 72 hours. Yeah. So in this home has been a very privileged base for a lot of what has happened and blessings, most importantly for my family. It is this home again that the same regime has come to desecrate, come to destroy, for only one purpose. One purpose. One purpose. And it is political. My support for Baba here, which is unwavering and unshaken, and they will not dissuade us from the path that we have chosen. It is my democratic right and those of every Kenyan, to choose and support in whichever manner they can, legally and peacefully, whoever they want. It is unfortunate that you get victimized for it. This victimization is small in comparison to peaceful demonstrations in this country, where people are being shot. For what? Even holding a rock is not a crime. You can be picked up for it. Why is it answered with a live bullet? It is so unfortunate what is going on here. And I want to thank all of you, the media, my family, my very good friends who have supported my family. I want to say my lawyers who have done an amazing job, starting with Jim Orengo and Willis Otieno, who hasn't slept all this time. Mole Otende has also been there. And most importantly, I want to say categorically, if it was not for Baba, I don't know where some of my family members would be today. I don't know where some of my family members would have been today. The aggression I am told the police had on this home and on my family, including my aging father, were untold, completely untold. Baba came in at the right time. My wife can't stop crying because he stopped them in their tracks. Stopped them in their tracks when they were desecrating this home. And it is because of that that they have backed off this morning. I'm told after they had threatened to lay another siege. They had come here, I'm told, with a few more GSU men, and they had said that they must vamia by 8 o'clock. But because of Baba and all of the good supporters who are here and outside, they decided to leave. The law to them was irrelevant. This was a stage-managed thing from beginning, and they wanted to execute it no matter what. We want to thank you again for your prayers, and thanks very much. Baba, please. Why don't you say something there?
No, not really. No, I just want to say thank you very much indeed for all of you. When we came here 3 days ago, we knew we were up to a very big task, and God is great because with all your support, and this guy here, don't forget him. This guy is a hard worker all the way. Please give me where is Willis? Willis has been with us for all that time, and most important, you guys who are not married, get married. This girl has been with those scavenging people every corner they've gone to with Willis. She has been unable to sleep for all those 3 days. And as I say, if you are not married, get married.
Now.
Otherwise, thank you very much indeed for all of you, the media, the leaders from this country. You have shown there is a difference between politics and family. There's a difference between being a human person and a politician. The two must never be confused. And I'm afraid in this instance, I didn't see the difference. In fact, I saw people, can you imagine a whole lawyer like of the name and seniority of James Orengo, barred out there for hours? Not because he's coming for anything else, just to come and deliver a court order. A court order of which the officer in charge had a copy, would not allow him in. Even when Leader himself was allowed in, there was a big quarrel. Why did you allow him in? This is a private home. This is not a public place. And really, we have the choice as to whom we admit into the house or not.
Yes.
You can't, you the policeman, you the IG included, cannot choose whom we allow into our own house. And unfortunately, those differences have not been made in this instance. I think it's a regret. I hope it's a lesson for this nation or for Africa in general, because I think you can take politics too far, where you forget every of us have a soul to live on. So otherwise, thank you very much, all of you, and we are grateful for all that you have done. Yeah.
Fellow Kenyans, we stand here in this home of our brother and friend and his wonderful wife, Jimmy Wanjigi, on a very regrettable note. I want to remind the Inspector General and those he works for that the new Constitution 2010 transformed what was called a police force to a police service. Inspector General, you don't seem to have been transformed from force to service. And Kenyans are very alert about their rights. When a regime starts crumbling, they start seeing enemies in every direction. And in this particular instance, they have seen the enemy in Mr. and Mrs. Jimmy Wanjigi. We want to tell them that whatever they have done in this home and whatever they are doing to other Kenyans is unacceptable in any civilized country. Martin Luther King Jr. said, the greatest respect to the law is to disrespect an unjust law. And I can extend that the greatest respect to a state is to disrespect an unjust regime. Because injustice to one is injustice to all. An oppression to Jimmy and his wife is an oppression to every Kenyan. And we want, as the fraternity of NASA, the government in waiting, incoming, to tell the people of Kenya that all good things come through some form of sacrifice. And the sacrifice and endurance that our brother Jimmy and his family have gone through is part of the journey towards the liberation of this country. It's part of the journey to the Canaan that Baba has been telling Kenyans about. Canaan is not in the Middle East, Canaan is in this country. And we want our Canaan for the people of Kenya. I want to finish by encouraging Kenyans, all Kenyans of goodwill. The government can unleash terror. The government can fire bullets. The government can strangle people. But it's not possible for the government to shoot everybody. It's not possible for the government to strangle everybody. And in every ashes, there will always arise a phoenix. And that phoenix is the will of the people of Kenya. Tunawaomba wa Kenya tusimame pamoja kuambia hii serikali ya Jubilee ya kwamba Kenya ni ya Wakenya. Kenya si ya watu wawili au watu wachache. Tumeona vile mnajigamba na kutoa matamshi isiyoeleweka. Wakenya wanawaambia sasa imetosha. And let this unjust act in the home of Jimmy Wanjigi be the turning point for Kenyans to cascade towards final freedom. Thank you.
Well, where do you want me to start? I found myself marooned here. I got information from our lawyers that they had been to court and had obtained a court order which they had come to serve here. The regional had been taken to the Inspector General, but our lawyer James Orengo was not allowed access into these premises. So in those circumstances, I decided to come myself. I think maybe by accident I was allowed access into the premises.
God's will. God's will.
Yeah, they say the Lord works in mysterious ways.
Yes, it's wonders.
It's wonders to perform.
Yes.
I was now here in the premises when I then talked to James Orengo by phone and asked him to come. They came with Senator Mudama, and they were being held at the gate. So I walked out and went to the gate. At which point, but before I went in there, when I came inside, I found a search proceeding within the premises. I went up to the bedroom and I found...
It's not them.
It is not the police.
I found a beehive of activities in the bedrooms. Police officers under the beds, carrying out the so-called searches. Then I asked one of the seniors, I asked him, what is going on here? He told me that we are doing a search. I said, but you've been served with a court order. He said, I have not been served. I said, there's a court order which was served on the Inspector General, and your boss should be having it. At that point, I had a copy of the order. Then I told him that you are supposed to be a law enforcement agency. You are the first people who should be obeying the law. And this is an order from the court. At which point they stopped the search. He came down with them. Then we went out. I went out to meet the boss. The boss followed me to the gate. Then I asked them to open because the lawyer was outside. And they said, no, my instructions are not to allow anybody else inside. They've been very kind to allow you inside, but our instructions are not to allow anybody. I said, no, outside is a lawyer. And every Kenyan is entitled to a lawyer. He appointed at Willis Otieno, who said he was a lawyer. I said, yes, but a lawyer on record is Honorable James Orengo. They refused. It was a struggle. Then I retreated to talk to the boss, their boss, and I told him, here is a court order which has already been served on your superiors. And I read just one paragraph which says that the conservatory orders be and are hereby issued prohibiting, preventing, and or restraining respondents from further trespassing, breaking into, entering, and or in any way interfering with the private residence of the applicant without a court order warrant for that purpose until further orders of this court. I told him, this is an order. Now what do you say about this? He was moving. I told him, the Inspector General has been served, and you cannot now plead ignorance that you're not aware. Because if you are going to disobey a court order, what do you expect the common man to do? You're inviting Kenyans completely to disobey the law and order. At that point, he was called by his boss. He went and attended that phone call, and thereafter he said he was not allowed to talk to me anymore. Then we then came back. I was seated with Mzee here with a wonderful chat. Then I was called again that they wanted to see me. And when they called me, we retreated into a room. I called a lawyer who was with me. And at that point, then they said that I was now not allowed to leave this compound.
Detained.
Then I told him, but you know, in those old days, at least they were decent enough to come with an order, a detention order, to tell me that you are detained
Under house arrest.
or you are under house arrest. Then he just said, he walked out and went like that. He came back again to tell us that, you know, weapons had been found here, and therefore, in as far as you're concerned, this is now a scene of crime. And under the law, the scene of crime must be preserved as it is. Then the lawyer told him that, look, it only becomes a scene of crime if you have found something that is criminal. If you're talking about weapons that have been found here, we have shown you the licenses. And of course, they didn't even have to be shown licenses. They knew where they'd come from, the numbers of those weapons. They knew that those weapons were all licensed. I told him that you've already talked to the media and told I could seek breaking news that so many weapons have been found here. But you know you have the licenses for those weapons. Why are you doing this? This is not right for police officers. He walked out. Then after another 2 hours, there was reinforcement. They now came and said that I must leave now, that they want to carry out an operation. I told them I'm not going to help you to break the law. Therefore, I'm not leaving. I'm staying here to do whatever you want.
Give him a clap for that.
So he stayed with me here. He left me. I sat there. 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock. Then again they retreated. We thought they had gone. But again at 6 o'clock they came back again. And this is now a bigger contingent of the need. Now, initially there had been 70, 80. Now there are over 100 in the compound. And they went on. I think then some of our more supporters began to come in. I want to say hongera sana to those who came and those who stayed at night, because there are quite a number of people who are also keeping vigil outside in the cold throughout the night. Me, at least, I was inside the house, which is a little warm. But we need to know that this home was terribly vandalized. There are no lights in most of the rooms. They're using basically candlelight because they had cut cables, they had interfered with very many things. Even television sets here were not working. It was really what you can call wanton destruction of a private property. This is how they were behaving. Now, this kind of behavior shows a state that has gone rogue. And it started from immediately after the Supreme Court ruling. We saw the president go on a rampage against the judiciary, who tirade, wakora, crooks, mapinduzi ya kimahakama, judicial coup, they have robbed our victory and so on. That actually means that the president himself has shown contempt for the court. And if the president himself starts that way, of course his subordinates will follow suit. And that is when you get a complete breakdown of law and order in a society. That's the reason why you found you now have a rogue police force. Police officers who can shoot 6-month-old, 2-year-old, 11-year-old children with live bullets. In civilized societies, police use rubber bullets. Rubber bullets and truncheons are the ones that are used to control the crowd. But here in Kenya, they shoot directly at a crowd with live bullets, meaning they're aiming to kill. These are basically hired thugs who are basically anti-people. And that is where we are in this country today. But we know where we are. We have been here before. We know that changes that have come to this country have not come easy. They have not come through parliaments. If anything else, parliament has been used as an instrument to create dictatorship in this country. The amendments which were introduced in parliament in the 60s and 70s are the ones which eventually ended up with such a rogue state. The Prevention of Public Security Act, the Public Order Act, the Chiefs Authority Act, and so on and so forth. And then Section 2A. All those were brought in by a rogue parliament. Today we have ended up with a similar parliament, where we are being told about the so-called tyranny of numbers, that we'll use our numbers. But he's saying Parliament as it's currently constituted consists of 349 members, people, against 47 million people of this country. The will of the people of Kenya is unstoppable. cannot be changed. And we have said ourselves, we might as well say it here, that we respect the rule of law. That's why we accepted the ruling of the Supreme Court. But we've also said that we will not proceed without certain things being done. But that is a subject for another press conference. I therefore want to congratulate Jimmy for standing strong. Jimmy Wanjigi here is no stranger to President Uhuru Kenyatta. Uhuru Kenyatta knows. I've been with Uhuru Kenyatta in this same residence here. And we have had very long discussions with him here, hosted by Jimmy Wanjigi in this residence. So he knows exactly what he's doing. He knows exactly what he's trying to do, that are actually basically trying to set up Jimmy Wanjigi. The weapons supposedly found in a residence in Malindi were found in 2012. Go and dig into your archives, the newspapers. You'll see the photographs of those weapons discovered from the sea. And there's a story about them. They were just taken back there, again, supposedly for exhibit. And they said it's 2 days before they went to search that they are going to go to the house and they're going to find the weapons there. And I mentioned it to them here yesterday. When I told them yesterday, they were ashamed. They know exactly. So everything that's going on here is basically something that is cooked up by the police to try to harass Jimmy Wanjigi. You can end up here by saying, leave Jimmy Wanjigi alone. Thank you very much. Questions?
My name is Joseph Muraya from KPFM. Then as this was happening, one of the IBC professionals decided to resign. She lost the country. And she is serious issue.
Subject for another day.
Any other questions? Yes.
Yeah.
Now that we've seen this happening, and say it's harassment of further decisions, what is the way forward for government and
What do you mean way forward? Because you guys like this way forward, way forward. That's something that is more productive. You're dealing with this specific case of harassment that relates to Jimmy Wanjigi, and you told him to leave Jimmy Wanjigi alone.
It's illegality.
It is an illegality. Okay? So
We're in court.
And we are in court. And Jemo Rengo has told you already that you're going back to court to apply for contempt of court by the Inspector General. So the rest is now up to the courts to make a decision.
It's not necessary.
I think I should answer that.
But where was Jimmy Wanjigi?
That's a story for another day.
Very good. Very good.
I think that's good.
You said the last.
That's the last one. Thank you very much. If there's anything else, we invite you.
Hiyo ni msema kweli. Msema kweli.
Asanteni wote wale walikuwa hapo.
We want to ask everybody who is in the compound to give the family a little peace now, including the media and including us all. Yeah, because and then of course the leadership is going to Kamkunji. We are going to have a big rally in Kamkunji, where we're going to talk to Kenyans and everybody.
What time?
No reform.
No election. No election.
Yeah.